You ever get that weird gut feeling? Like something's off, but you can't prove it?
Yeah.
That's how it started for me. Subtle signs. Things that didn't quite make sense, but were just small enough to ignore. But I didn't. And thank God I didn't. Let me set the stage. My name's Evan. I'm 25, work in cybersecurity, and I was in a 2-year relationship with a girl named Lena. She was everything. Charming, funny, confident. The type of girl who walks into a room and makes it hers without even trying. And then there's Jake, my best friend since middle school. We'd been through it all. Late-night gaming marathons, college parties, breakups, fights, everything. He was the kind of guy you could trust with your life, or so I thought. It all started about 4 months ago. I had just gotten a new position at work. More responsibility, more hours. The first 2 weeks were a grind, and I barely had time for myself, let alone Lena. She said she understood, that she was proud of me, but then things started shifting. She'd take longer to respond to texts, sometimes hours. When I'd call, I'd get sent straight to voicemail. The first few times, she said her phone was on silent, or she was just out with the girls. Then there was Jake. He started acting weird too, distant. I'd hit him up to hang out or play something online and he'd be busy. Not in the usual way either. It was like they both became ghosts at the same time. Now, I'm not naturally paranoid. I believe in giving people space, but the timing? Too perfect. So I started paying attention. One night, Lena came over. She was smiling, laughing, normal, but when she went to the bathroom, her phone lit up. I swear I wasn't trying to snoop, but I saw it out of the corner of my eye. It was a text from Jake. It said, "I missed last night already. Can't stop thinking about it." My heart stopped. I stared at the message like it wasn't real, like my brain was playing tricks on me. But there it was, from Jake, my best friend, and Lena had it on her phone. She came out of the bathroom, and I must have looked like I'd seen a ghost. She asked me what was wrong. I didn't say anything. Not yet. See, I've worked in security long enough to know this. The truth is easier to get when they don't know you're looking. So I played dumb. I smiled, kissed her, and said I was just tired. And right then and there, I made a silent promise to myself. I was going to find out exactly what was going on. I wasn't going to accuse. I wasn't going to confront. Not yet, because I was going to make them regret it. Over the next few weeks, I started laying the groundwork. I installed a keylogger on Lena's laptop, not proud of it but necessary. I'd helped her fix it once, so she gave me the admin password months ago. Never changed it. I also set up a tiny home security cam in my apartment. Not for her, she rarely stayed over anymore, but for Jake. I wanted to see if he ever came by when I wasn't around. And boy, did he. One Thursday night, I got home late from work. Lena had said she was going to her friend Chloe's for the weekend. Said they needed girl time. Cool. I pretended not to care. But when I checked the footage from my front door cam, there he was, Jake, standing at my door, with Lena, and they weren't acting like friends. They didn't even try to sneak in. They just walked right in like it was their place, laughing, close. She touched his chest at one point. He kissed her cheek. I sat there in front of my screen, hands clenched, teeth grinding. But I didn't stop there. I pulled her keylogger logs, and I found everything. Dozens of messages between her and Jake, talking about me, about how I was too distracted with work to notice, about how they always had this connection, about how guilty they sort of felt, but what we have feels too real to ignore. There it was, plain as day. My girlfriend and my best friend were sneaking around behind my back. But here's the thing, I didn't confront them, not yet, because I knew I could do better than yelling, better than crying. I wanted them to feel the same betrayal I felt, but deeper, lasting. So I started planning. And if you think this is about to end with a dramatic confrontation in some cafe or blowing up their phones with screenshots, no, that's too easy. What I had in mind would take patience, precision, and a hell of a lot more than just exposing them, because I wasn't going to just catch them. I was going to destroy them, one step at a time. You know what they say, revenge is a dish best served cold. After I found out my girlfriend Lena and my best friend Jake were sneaking behind my back, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even confront them. Why? Because that's what they'd expect. And I wanted this to sting. They thought they were clever, careful, but I had digital receipts, camera footage, and weeks of text logs. I knew their patterns, their weak spots, and most importantly, I knew their egos. See, people like Lena and Jake, they don't feel guilt the same way most of us do. They feel superiority. They think they're smarter than you, that they're getting away with something because they deserve better, because they're special. So I decided to let them keep thinking that for just a little longer. That weekend, while they were pretending to be at separate places, I did something simple but surgical. I invited both of them to my promotion party. Now, this party wasn't real. I made up a story about how my company wanted to celebrate my new role. Just a casual thing, coworkers only. Told Lena it'd be all work people. Told Jake the same thing. Why? So they wouldn't bring each other. But more importantly, so they'd lie to each other about where they were. And it worked. Lena said she was out of town visiting her mom that weekend. Jake said he was helping his cousin move. Cute, right? Meanwhile, I had eyes on both their locations. Lena's phone, thanks to a Find My iPhone request she'd approved months ago, showed she was in the city. Jake's? Same. But it wasn't about catching them together this time. I already had the proof. This was about testing their coordination, seeing how far they'd go to cover for each other. And they passed that test, lying straight to my face. So I went deeper. Over the next 2 weeks, I started becoming forgetful. I accidentally left my laptop unlocked around Lena. I forgot to log out of my phone when she was nearby. I even mentioned to Jake that I was getting concerned about my bank app showing weird logins. None of it was true, but both of them suddenly got very interested in my phone and laptop. Curious, right? See, when people start betraying you, they also start wondering if you are doing the same. Projection 101. So I let them spiral. I fed them false information. I made up a story about being stressed at work, about how I might take a break, even joked about moving to another city if things got too bad. I wanted them to feel like they were winning, that I was drifting away, that they could eventually be together without confrontation. That's when I made my next move. I started messaging Jake from a burner account. At first, it was subtle. Stuff like, "You and Lena seem close." And does Evan know? He denied everything, acted confused. But I kept it up, slowly turning the heat up with each message. Finally, I sent him something that changed the game. "Evan knows. You need to get ahead of this." He didn't respond right away. But the next day, Lena texted me. A long, weirdly emotional message, telling me how much she appreciated my trust and how she hoped I was okay with her spending more time with her friends lately. That was when I knew. They were getting scared. They weren't sure what I knew, but the idea that I might know, that was enough to shake them. So I went in for the kill that I called Jake up the next week and told him I had a favor to ask. Said I needed help moving a few things from my apartment because I was planning to sublet it and work remotely for a few months. Of course, he offered to help, still pretending to be the loyal best friend. Lena, meanwhile, was quieter than usual. She wasn't texting as much. I could tell the guilt was bubbling up, or maybe it was fear. Either way, I had what I needed. I had access to both their phones by this point. Don't ask how. Let's just say Lena's backup data and Jake's lazy password habits helped. I created a folder. Clean, neat little package. Every text, every photo, every sneaky message they thought no one would ever see. I scheduled it to send automatically. To Jake's girlfriend, who I hadn't even known existed until recently, and to Lena's mom, and a few of her closest friends. Not out of pettiness, out of precision. Because when this whole thing finally exploded, I didn't want it to be just about me. I wanted everyone in their lives to see what they really were. I watched it all unfold from a distance. Jake showed up at my place, all smiles, ready to help me pack. He walked into my apartment like nothing was wrong. And that's when his phone buzzed. Once, twice, then 5 times in a row. He pulled it out, looked at the screen, and froze. Then came the knock on the door. It was Lena, her face pale, Eyes wide, I invited her in, and that's when I smiled and said, "Nice of you both to finally be honest. Too bad it took me orchestrating the whole thing for it to happen." So there we were, Jake standing in my living room, phone in hand, staring like he just saw a ghost. Lena at the door, frozen, holding her breath. And me, I was calm. I watched as Jake's hands started to shake. His phone kept buzzing. I already knew what the notifications were, those screenshots I'd collected, sent to his girlfriend, his friends, even his boss. Yeah. Turns out Jake wasn't just cheating with my girlfriend. He was cheating on his girlfriend, too. And corporate Jake? He was dumb enough to use his work phone for some of those texts. Lena looked at me, confused and panicked. What's going on? Why is everyone messaging me? I didn't answer. Instead, I walked over to my kitchen table and picked up 2 envelopes. One labeled Jake, one labeled Lena. I handed them each one. Inside, printed copy of everything. Every photo, every message, every lie. Jake opened his and turned pale. Lena didn't even open hers. She just stared at me, eyes starting to tear up. "Evan, please, let me explain." "No," I said. "You've done enough talking behind my back. This time, you get to listen." I laid it all out, how I knew when I knew, the camera footage, the keyloggers, the burner account. Every little piece of their betrayal. Jake tried to play dumb at first. Classic move. "You're crazy, man. This is insane. It's not what it looks like." But Lena broke down, right in front of us. She dropped to the couch and started crying. Hard. "It was a mistake," she sobbed. "It didn't mean anything at first. We didn't plan it." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You didn't plan it? You had a whole second relationship behind my back. Don't insult me with that crap." Jake stood there, still trying to salvage his ego. "You don't have to do this, man. Just delete the stuff. We can talk." I looked him dead in the eye. "This is me talking. I've said all I need to say, and I meant it. This wasn't about yelling or dragging it out anymore. The damage was done. The point had been made. But I wasn't quite done. I told Lena to leave first. She didn't argue. She took her folder, walked out the door, and didn't look back. Jake stayed for a second, looking at me like he didn't recognize who I was. "You planned all of this," he said. "You're not the guy I thought you were." I smiled. "No, Jake. I was exactly the guy you thought wouldn't fight back." And then I shut the door behind him. I won't pretend that it felt amazing right away. Betrayal hurts even when you win. But I started to heal the moment I took my power back. Jake lost his girlfriend. Word got around his company. Last I heard, he's on some kind of probation. Lena tried texting me a week later. Something long and emotional. I didn't even open it. I'm done wasting time on people who treat loyalty like a game. After everything blew up, I thought I'd feel victorious. Like in those movies where the hero walks away from an explosion in slow motion. But real life, it's messy. Jake and Lena were out of my life, sure. But the silence that followed, it was weird, heavy. I wasn't mourning them. I was mourning what I thought we had. 2 people I trusted with everything. And they threw it away for cheap thrills and lies. But I didn't wallow. I rebuilt, cut ties, blocked numbers, got a new apartment, smaller, quieter, mine. The kind of place that doesn't hold memories of fake laughter and secondhand betrayal. I focused on work, hit the gym harder, reconnected with people I'd pulled away from during my relationship. People who, surprisingly, already knew something was off. That part stung more than I'd admit. One of my coworkers pulled me aside and said, "We never wanted to say anything, but Lena always seemed like she was pretending around you." Ouch. Another friend told me they saw Jake and Lena together once months ago, but didn't think it was anything. I guess when you're too close to the fire, you don't always smell the smoke. About 2 weeks after the fallout, I got a message from someone I didn't expect. Jake's girlfriend. Well, ex-girlfriend now. Her name was Mel. She wrote, "Hey, I just wanted to say thank you. It hurt like hell, but I'm glad I found out. And I'm sorry you had to go through that too." We ended up talking a bit, compared timelines. And yeah, turns out Jake had been playing both sides way longer than I thought. She told me he had a pattern. Flirting with girls in mutual friend groups, always keeping things just secret enough to get away with it. Lena was just the latest. Disgusting. But Mel, she was sharp, calm, kind of darkly funny, and we weirdly got along. We'd text about the awkward DMs we were both still getting from Jake. How Lena was apparently going through something spiritual now and posting breakup poetry on Instagram. Mel joked, "Should we write a book? Betrayed by two idiots." And honestly, I was starting to laugh again. We didn't plan to keep talking, but we did. One night, I told her something I hadn't admitted out loud yet. I wasn't just angry, you know? I felt stupid. Like, how did I not see it? She responded instantly, "Because you're not a manipulative liar. People like us don't expect that kind of betrayal." That hit me hard. Not because it hurt, but because it was true. I still think about Jake and Lena sometimes. Not because I miss them, but because I wonder if they ever sit with the silence they created. If they ever scroll through their contacts and realize the people they lost were the ones who actually cared. They haven't reached out since. Well, Jake tried. Sent a 2-line apology that somehow managed to blame stress and unresolved feelings. Blocked. Lena, still quiet, probably hoping I forget. Spoiler, I haven't, and I won't, but I've moved on. Not out of revenge, but out of clarity. They showed me who they are. I believed them. I thought it was over. I thought I'd burned the bridge, scattered the ashes, and moved on. But life has a funny way of testing you just when you're starting to feel whole again. It had been about a month since everything went down. Lena and Jake were out of my life. I was doing better, working more, sleeping more, smiling more, even texting Mel from time to time, just as friends. And then I got the message. Blocked number. No name. Just 3 words. "You ruined us." First, I thought it was spam. But then another message came through. "You think you're the victim? You're not. You're a manipulative psycho who can't let people live." Now I knew who it was. Lena. I hadn't heard a word from her since I dropped the evidence bomb. No apology. No closure. But now, suddenly, she was back. And angry. Like I was the villain. First, I ignored it. Deleted the texts. Didn't respond. But the messages kept coming. Midnight. 3 a.m. random accusations. Passive-aggressive nonsense. Then she started posting cryptic stuff online. Not naming me, but close enough that people could guess. Stuff like, "Narcissists always play the victim. Some people weaponize truth just to feel powerful. Real love can't survive control." It was almost funny how someone who cheated, lied, and gaslit could turn me into the problem. Almost. I didn't bite. Didn't post back. Didn't respond. But the final straw came when my boss pulled me aside at work. Said someone had anonymously emailed HR claiming I was emotionally abusive and had a pattern of digital surveillance on partners. I felt sick. It wasn't true. And I knew it had to be Lena. She was trying to flip the story. I spent hours documenting everything, proving the context, showing the chain of events. Thankfully, I'd kept records of everything. My boss believed me. HR cleared me. But it shook me, because now it wasn't just betrayal. It was smear. So I decided to end it. For real this time. I hired a lawyer, sent a formal cease and desist to Lena with screenshots of the harassment, the false claims, the pattern of behavior. And then I did the one thing that really hit her where it hurt. I posted my side of the story, not on Reddit, not in a rant, just a clean, factual thread on my private account. No insults, no rage, just truth. People connected the dots. Her friends, our old mutuals. People started asking questions. And she vanished, deleted her account, went offline. It was like watching a storm collapse into silence. That's when I realized something. People like Lena and Jake, they don't break you all at once. They chip away at you, quietly, until you start questioning what's real. But truth always finds its way back. And mine did. I wasn't perfect. I made mistakes too. But I didn't lie. I didn't cheat. I didn't manipulate. And in the end, that made all the difference. Revenge is satisfying in the moment, but real closure? That takes time. After I shut Lena down for good, legally and emotionally, I expected to feel some kind of final thrill, victory, vindication. Instead, I just felt quiet. No more drama, no more late-night texts, no cryptic Instagram posts or shady, anonymous emails, just silence. And for the first time in months, I could actually breathe. I started doing things I used to love again. Hiking, painting, actually reading books cover to cover without constantly checking my phone. The anxiety that had clung to me during that relationship started to lift. It wasn't just about what Lena and Jake did. It was about who I let myself become while trying to hold on to people who didn't deserve me. I'd shrunk myself, walked on eggshells, explained away red flags just because I didn't want to believe two people I trusted could betray me. But now, I wasn't explaining anything anymore. I was just living. Mel and I kept in touch. Not romantically, not at first. Just two people who knew what it felt like to be blindsided by people they thought they knew. We'd grab coffee once in a while, talk about work, life, and all the little things we'd both put on hold for toxic relationships. One night, after months of silence between us, she asked, "Do you ever think we went through all of that for a reason?" I looked at her and said, "If we didn't, we wouldn't be sitting here now." There was a long pause. Then she smiled. "I'm not saying we fell in love instantly. This wasn't a movie. But sometimes, healing begins when you find someone who doesn't need fixing. Just understanding. And slowly, without pressure, we started something real. Grounded. Honest. No lies. No games. Just two people who'd already been burned, choosing not to burn each other. Lena and Jake? I don't really think about them anymore. Last I heard, Jake moved cities, probably trying to outrun his own mess. And Lena, well, someone told me she started a blog about healing after betrayal. The irony practically writes itself. But that's the thing. I don't need to laugh at them. I don't need karma to destroy them, because the real revenge is peace. Peace they'll never have while they're still blaming everyone but themselves. I didn't get closure by getting even. I got it by letting go, by remembering who I am, and refusing to let liars define my worth. So if you're watching this and you've been betrayed, here's what I'll say. Don't chase revenge. Chase clarity. Because once you stop trying to prove your worth to people who don't see it, you become unstoppable.